For thousands of years, Mount Olives has stood as a silent witness to history, watching empires rise and fall, hearing the cries of kings, prophets, and pilgrims. Its slopes have felt the footsteps of Jesus, the tears of David, and the echoes of prophecy spoken long ago. But today, something extraordinary is happening on this sacred mountain, something subtle, yet deeply symbolic. As the centuries-old graves on the Mount of Olives continue to expand, they seem to be pressing closer and closer toward a sealed doorway, the ancient eastern gate of Jerusalem. To the untrained eye, it might appear to be nothing more than the natural spread of a growing cemetery. But to those who understand the prophetic weight of this land, this movement could mean much more. Could this physical shift, graves inching toward the gate where prophecy says the Messiah will one day enter, be a sign that something divine is stirring once again? Before we uncover the full story and what it could mean for prophecy, kindly take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you powerful stories that connect history, archaeology, and biblical revelation in ways that deepen our understanding of God's unfolding plan. Now let's journey into the heart of this mystery, where ancient prophecy meets modern reality. The Mount of Olives is not just another hill overlooking Jerusalem. It is a living monument of faith, prophecy, and divine encounter. Rising above the Kidron Valley, it faces directly toward the Temple Mount, its gaze fixed on the Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate. For over 3,000 years, this mountain has been intertwined with the destiny of Israel. It was here that King David wept as he fled from his son Absalom. It was here that Solomon built high places for foreign gods, an act that would haunt Israel for generations. The prophet Ezekiel saw the glory of the Lord depart from the temple and rest upon this mountain, Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 23, marking a moment when God's presence lifted from the city. Centuries later, Zechariah would foretell a day when the Lord himself would return to this very spot. On that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two from east to west, forming a great valley. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4. And perhaps most profoundly, it was on this same mountain that Jesus spent much of his final week before the crucifixion. Here he delivered the Olivet Discourse, predicting wars, earthquakes, and the signs of his second coming, Matthew 24. From this place he looked upon Jerusalem and wept, saying, "You will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Matthew chapter 23, verse 39. From this mountain he ascended into heaven before the eyes of his disciples, Acts chapter 1, verse 9 to 12. And it is here the angels declared that he will return in the same way. The Mount of Olives, therefore, is not only a historical location, it is a prophetic landmark. Every stone whispers of promises yet to be fulfilled. For centuries, the Jewish people have longed to be buried on the Mount of Olives. This desire is not born of prestige or beauty, but of belief. Jewish tradition teaches that when the Messiah comes, the resurrection of the dead will begin right here. To rest on this mountain is to await the trumpet call of redemption at the very threshold of eternity. It is no surprise, then, that today the Mount of Olives holds more than 150,000 graves, making it the oldest continuously used cemetery in the world. From prophets and rabbis to common men and women of faith, their tombs stretch like a white sea across the mountain slopes. It is a landscape of hope carved in stone. Yet something remarkable is happening. The cemetery is expanding. With space in Jerusalem growing scarce, new graves are being added farther down the slopes, spreading ever closer toward the old city, and most intriguingly, toward the sealed eastern gate. From the sky, the sight is breathtaking. Rows of limestone tombs forming what looks like a river of faith, flowing directly toward that ancient doorway. Many see this expansion as a mere practical response to population and tradition, but to others it feels as if prophecy itself is moving, inch by inch, toward fulfillment. No gate in Jerusalem carries as much prophetic weight as the Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate. Facing the Mount of Olives, this gate is unlike any other. It is sealed shut, its stones unmoved for centuries, as if guarding a secret too holy to reveal. Why is it sealed? History gives us clues. In the 16th century, Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ordered the Eastern Gate to be walled up, fearing the Jewish prophecy that the Messiah would one day enter through it. To strengthen the barrier, a Muslim cemetery was built directly in front of the gate, under the belief that no holy man or Jewish priest could pass through defiled ground. But can human barriers stand against divine prophecy? The prophet Ezekiel spoke clearly of this gate. Then he brought me back the way of the outer gate of the sanctuary, which looks toward the east, and it was shut. And the Lord said to me, "This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter by it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it, therefore it shall be shut." Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 1-2. According to prophecy, this gate remains sealed until the Messiah returns. When he comes, he will enter through it, not as a humble carpenter, but as the conquering King of glory. Psalm 24 echoes this promise. "Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in." It is no coincidence that the graves on the Mount of Olives, symbols of waiting, faith, and resurrection, are now spreading toward that very gate. Could it be that creation itself is aligning with the coming fulfillment of God's word? In recent years, as Jerusalem's population has grown, so too has the demand for burial space on the Mount of Olives. City planners and religious authorities have carefully extended the cemetery further down its slopes, reclaiming every inch of available land. But as this happens, something deeply symbolic has emerged. The newest graves seem to be drawing ever closer to the Eastern Gate, the very threshold of prophecy, toward the gate through which the Messiah is destined to enter. Some see this as pure coincidence, a natural outcome of limited space and centuries of tradition. But others, especially those who watch world events through the lens of prophecy, see something more. They see a physical manifestation of a spiritual truth, that history itself is pressing toward the moment of redemption. Each tomb built on that slope could be viewed as a silent testimony to faith in God's promises. Each expansion of the cemetery could represent a step closer to the fulfillment of the ancient words spoken by prophets long ago. The Mount of Olives seems to be alive, waiting, watching, and slowly inching toward the day when prophecy becomes reality. It was on this very mountain that Jesus delivered one of his most profound teachings, the Olivet Discourse. He spoke of signs that would precede his return: wars, earthquakes, false prophets, persecution, and the gospel being preached to all nations. Then he said, "And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory." Mark chapter 13, verse 26. When his disciples asked when these things would happen, he didn't give them an exact time. Instead, he said, Watch therefore, for you do not know the day nor the hour. And so, generation after generation has watched. For nearly 2,000 years, believers have looked toward the Mount of Olives in the Eastern Gate, knowing that when the King returns, this will be the stage upon which history's final act begins. Imagine the moment described in Zechariah's prophecy, the Messiah's feet touching the Mount of Olives, the mountains splitting in two, the graves breaking open, and the eastern gate swinging wide not by human hands, but by divine power. Could the ever-expanding cemetery, reaching out toward that sealed gate, be a visual reminder of what is to come? Could it be that the very stones of Jerusalem are testifying that time is drawing near? The Bible often reminds us that God's word does not return void. What he has spoken will come to pass. The expansion of the Mount of Olives cemetery may not be the final sign of the Lord's return, but it certainly points to something profound. It tells us that the promises of God are not distant myths. They are living realities unfolding even in the most unexpected ways. The graves inching closer to the eastern gate can be seen as symbols of anticipation. The dead reaching toward resurrection, the mountain waiting to split, the gate waiting to open, all of creation leaning forward in expectation of the King who will come again. As Jesus once said, "When these things begin to happen, look up, for your redemption draws near." Luke chapter 21, verse 28. So what does all of this mean for us today? Should we treat the expansion of a cemetery as a countdown to the end of days? Not necessarily, but it should awaken something in our hearts. A reminder that prophecy is alive, that the Lord's promises are sure, and that his return is nearer than we think. The Mount of Olives stands as a testimony that history is not random. God's plan is unfolding with precision, and even the movement of graves toward a sealed gate can serve as a divine reminder that time is moving according to his design. The question is not just whether Jesus is about to return, but whether we are ready to meet him when he does. The stones of Jerusalem are watching. The Mount of Olives waits in silence. The eastern gate remains sealed, but not forever. One day the King of Glory will enter through it, and the whole world will know that prophecy has finally been fulfilled. From the Mount of Olives to the eastern gate, prophecy continues to whisper through the stones of Jerusalem. The cemetery expands, the gate remains sealed, and believers around the world are left in awe, wondering if the signs of his coming are unfolding before our eyes. What do you think? Could this growing sea of graves pressing toward the eastern gate be another sign that the return of the King is drawing near? Or is it simply a coincidence of geography and time? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this powerful mystery. And as always, thank you for watching. Stay watchful, stay ready, and remember, prophecy is not dead history. It is living destiny.